focus of this season of our podcast is really about what we learned from the mistakes that we made. And I know when Dana and I talked to you earlier, you were very forthcoming in some of the mistakes that you experienced over your time, which we truly appreciate, because we want people to learn, and as we have from the mistakes that we've made and we've seen made. So I know there were a couple of oh shit moments that you defined at Marketo, and I think I lived through one of them with you, which involved some tears. So let's talk a little bit about that. How about the webinar fuck up that you inadvertently stepped in the doo-doo on?
Yeah.
And what happened there?
So I believe it was my first webinar, and we were using a new tool that I wasn't familiar with. I think it was GoToWebinar or something like that. And what I didn't realize is whatever setting I had, you could see all the participants, and everybody else could see all the different participants. So I didn't really even realize this while it was happening. But after the fact, someone, and I'll tell you who the someone was, posted on social media, I can't believe these Marketo numbskulls are sharing all these information of all the rest of the people on the webinar. Eloqua, pay attention. You could nab all these, people. Wow. And it totally made me cry. And I was like, John Miller, I was working for John Miller at the time. He's pretty stickler, lived with it and everything. He actually hired the person who posted that on social, and her name is Maria Pergolino. Calling you out, Maria. And the reason I call out Maria Pergolino is we've since worked together for a long time. We have become super friends. She's my daughter's godmother, actually. So the learning is don't take yourself too seriously, and don't hold grudges because yeek, I remember calling you I can't believe that she did this. But in the end, it's okay. Probably I'm the only one who ever even remembers it.
Yeah. Oh, I remember it.
Yeah, you remember it. And, I learned too, more of a checklist with your webinars. Test it out if you don't know the technology. Do a dry run. I mean, I shouldn't have done my first one live, right?
Yeah. So. It's like when you mean to BCC someone on an email or a whole list of people and you don't, and then we send it out to everybody, right?
Yeah, and back in those days, it was pretty aggressive, from a prospecting perspective with Eloqua, and I think it was Manicore was one of the other early tools.
Wow.
And yeah, and I remember the call out, and I had a couple salespeople reach out to me and say, "Wow," and it was like, "Well, there you go. There's the prospect list."
If you sold sponsorships, hey, there you go. We made it easy for you. I hope you took some screenshots.
Love it. Well, your email comment was a good segue into one of the other fun little snafus that Sandra had experienced related to sending emails for Marketo through Marketo. So do you want to touch on that one, Sandra?
Sure. I think this was my first email that I had sent for Marketo, and it was coming from the CEO, and it was going to, I think, 100,000 people. I had never sent such a large send before. And I was pretty new, and I had put in the signature that the CEO's name was Phil Hernandez. His name is Phil Fernandez, not Hernandez. So I checked it so many times. I had so many people check it, different eyes on it. Now, luckily for me, right before I sent it, I figured it out, and I changed the H to the F, and I wasn't fired, because I'm guessing I might have been fired for that one. A note from the wrong name of your CEO. So my learning was just really make sure you always get multiple eyes on, especially email sends.
Yeah.
Like, you can run into trouble when people ask you for things fast And you just have to say, okay, we got to slow down. This is important. Let's make sure we do it right. You really do. After the fact, it's too late. It's gone. So luckily, it wasn't a deal breaker, but it was close.
I think that's so important, Sandra. And I think Cari and I have been talking a lot about this with the team, and just as we all are so busy, and it feels even, I don't know, every year it feels busier than the last year. But I feel like less and less we have the space to, like, the mental space to do things correctly. Everybody wants things rushed. Everybody needs things yesterday. And that's where the mistakes happen, right? And if we don't have the space to make sure we can correct that stuff, and like even you said, you had read it many times, your eyes plays tricks on you, right? When you're editing and you miss things. But I think giving people the space to do the job correctly and to have the time to do their double checks ultimately saves us in the long run, from some of these snafus, I think. Yeah,
and feeling confident enough to say, hold on, I know you want this minute, but I really need to check it. Let's just take a breath. You'll regret it if you don't, potentially. So
I was a PR major, and my professor, he was a stickler about grammar, and I'm terrible at grammar. You can ask Cari. I'm like one of the worst. So he used to say you should flip it upside down and read it backwards. Oh. And what's interesting about that was stuff like that. If you do, you will catch, because you don't catch it if you've written it or you've read it so many times. But if you look at it from a different angle, we don't print things out anymore. So that was way back when we actually printed stuff. But it was interesting because you would catch 100 more things than you do when you're reading it.
I'd also say if you have a backup person who never gives you any kind of feedback ever, and all it is this is good, this is good, this is good, they're probably not reading it. So make sure you have someone who really is helping you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. I agree with that. So.
Or maybe your stuff is all just perfect, Sandra.
Oh, yeah. No.
The team probably knows that about Cari and I when we're quick to respond. Yeah, looks good. And they're probably going, you didn't even look at it, did you?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think, on the content side too, Dana, as we're creating longer form contents, for clients, ebooks, white papers, those types of things, the rush thing is an issue, right? Where, when you say it takes 4 to 6 weeks and, everybody is wanting to tighten up those timelines, you don't want to give on the, deep editing process that we go through as well as the, proofreading, right? Because, we've all seen, the result of things that are pushed through too quickly, as, Sandra just described. Yeah. I'm so glad you didn't do that.
One comment for you on the 4 to 6 weeks right now. It reminded me, supply chain's a big deal right now. If you are doing direct mail, make sure you have plenty of time for what you're...
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're basically saying even just in holiday shopping, right? I mean, if you don't get it out at a certain time, or orders placed, you're not going to get it. Yeah. So, all right. So we know that you've done a lot with events too, Sandra, right? Back in, is it your Marketo days? Probably all across your career. But I know that you've done a lot of event stuff. And so there's had to have been some snafus along the way when it comes to events. Love to hear a little bit about those. I know there was an issue with chocolate confusion. We'd love to hear about it. So.
Oh, yes. That's one of my favorite, actually. So early days, running one of my first events, a physical event, when we used to be able to do that. I think they're coming back, guys. I'm looking for the 2022. I was sponsor of a conference, we had a room drop. And I thought it would be really great to leave chocolate on pillows. And so I ordered some chocolate, then I ordered a postcard, and I thought, oh, sweet dreams, chocolate with a postcard, be left on their pillows. Great. What I didn't do, and the learning here is you should do this, is see a sample before you approve that anything be left shared with anybody else, is the card and the chocolate. The chocolate was in like a silver foil and it was a circle. Everybody thought it was a condom. So they thought we were leaving condoms on pillows. I mean, it was really embarrassing. I was just mortified. Now, of course, when they opened it, it's chocolate, but woo.
If they opened it, right? Some people might have been like, oh, I'm not touching it.
Yeah, that happened. Get a sample, people.
Did you get feedback from people on that?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They go, can't believe you guys were giving out condoms. I said we weren't. It was chocolate. I swear. It's chocolate.
Look at it. And some people might have been disappointed the other way, like thinking it was a condom and then it wasn't. They were like, oh no, this is chocolate.
Oh my God.
It's so funny you say that, Sandra, because I've had a room drop incident too. And it was like our first, and we were doing a customer event and we were being really creative, and we had these little, like, Chinese takeout, like, food containers, but we didn't put any kind of label on them or anything. And then we filled them with fortune cookies, and all the messages were in there. And we did a room drop, so when they came home from our night event, they'd have like a little snack at night. Everybody just thought some weirdos hung takeout on their door, and nobody took them. So not as bad as the condom, but we got a lot of feedback too going, did anyone get weird takeout on their door last night? And we were like, oh, there was goodies in there. And so thinking through, like you said, at least you said you had a postcard. We didn't think about putting any kind of wrapper on.
So it was just hung on the door.
It was like it had the red, like on the little cartons, and just hung on the door. It said nothing. We just didn't think it through.
I would have grabbed it. I love Chinese leftovers, so.
I don't care if it wasn't mine.
I think that brings up an idea for me, just to share with you guys, is when we are back to group gifts. So this is, we're back in the offices and you want to send a box of cookies, right? It needs to have, picture it by itself, no one's around. It needs to have all that branding on it. So if someone walks up, they know what it is. Otherwise, no one knows. And I've seen it so many times. Who gave us this? I don't know. And you want it to be, this came from Unreal, or this came from Demandbase, etc. And just make it really clear. Nice and nice.
I think it's so true, Sandra, because what we're seeing is people are drop shipping things from places, which is great because they're like giving a gift, but then there's no kind of label or, it's like thinking through the experience. The total experience.
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
Who sent me this gift? I love it. Well, you guys probably remember, it wasn't too long ago, and I think it was at the Marketo conference here in Vegas, Sandra, a couple years ago, the one where DJ Jazzy Jeff was there, and we were all there, right?
Oh my God. When Will Smith came on stage?
Yeah. I remember that was so awesome. I think that was the one where one of our clients had sent, they're targeting salespeople. They had sent them maybe it was Serious Decisions. It might have been Serious. Anyway, so a show in Vegas where they had sent kind of a, Vegas survival kit. And there was like, hand sanitizer and bottled water and Advil and condoms. And they did send condoms. And it was, I think they were going for a little bit of the, attention getting. And it definitely made its way to social media, people commenting on it and stuff. And so, Sandra, what do you think about something like that, to do an intentional kind of bold, thing that gets people talking?
Yeah. I like to have a bold edge, but like sometimes I think it's worth debating some of that. Like, what do you feel comfortable about? Like, don't our friends at Uberflip, I think it was F*CK marketing, like, do you feel comfortable with that? I think that's been really well received, but it all depends on your team and what you want to portray, I think.
Yeah, and your brand and the voice and stuff that you want to have. But it was interesting to see, some people were like, that's great, super fun. And other people were like, very offensive. And it's kind of like, whoa, I think if you don't take the middle of the line, you have to expect, people on either side to, to have a point of view. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's the mindset, is any press bad press? I mean, everybody's talking about it. It's on social. So whether you agreed with it or not, they definitely got some leverage out of it for sure, right?